aspect of simplifications, that is finding out square roots of a given number. Generally, finding out square root by the regular procedure takes a lot of time. That is called as long division method, and we end up wasting a lot of time by the time we get the answer. So let's see how can we find out square roots of a given number in a smart way. Since we have already learned how to find out squares, it will be easy for us to decide how to get the square roots. Here we are going to follow a simple 3-step procedure to get the answer. Before we take up the procedure, let us just understand what is the pattern to be followed for the unit space. We have already seen this pattern when we have learned 1 to 30 squares. Let us quickly revise this once again. Whenever a number ends with 1, its square root always ends with 1 or 9. Whenever a number ends with 4, the square root ends with 2 or 8. Similarly, if a number is ending with 9, its square root ends with either 3 or 7. When a number ends with 6, square root ends with 4 or 6. And we very well know that when a number ends with 5, its square root also ends with 5. So this pattern should be very clearly understood and remembered to find out square roots. The other very important point which I would like to add here is that the method which we are going to learn now is applicable only for perfect squares. That means by following the 3-step procedure that we shall discuss now, we can find out the square roots of only those numbers which are perfect squares. It is not applicable for imperfect squares. So let us now take up some examples and understand the procedure of finding out square roots of perfect squares. Now the given question here is, what is square root of 2401? Now the first step to be applied here is, check the units place of the given number. Here the number is ending with 1. We very well know that when a number ends with 1, its square root ends with 1 or 9. So very clearly the square root of this number should either end with 1 or it should end with 9. That means units place of the given number will be 1 or 9. So that's the first step to be followed. Now the second step here is to leave the last 2 digits. Remember, always leave the last 2 digits. Now we need to find out that number which is immediately less than 24 and a perfect square. So what is a number which is less than 24 and a perfect square? We know that it is 16. Why? Because 4 square is 16, 5 square is 25. 5 square 25 is more than 24. Remember, we always have to go on the lesser side. So what is a number which is immediately less than 24 and a perfect square? Is 16. 16 is nothing but 4 square. So that 4 will be the tens place. So that is the second step of the procedure. That means now we know that the answer is either 41 or 49. And now comes the third and the last step. In the third step, we have to decide which of these two is correct. Is the answer 41 or 49? Now that can be done in 2 or 3 different ways. The first method here to do that is, we can take exactly what comes between 41 and 49. That means the number which comes exactly between 41 and 49 is 45. What is 45 square? 2025. From the knowledge of finding out squares of numbers ending with 5, we know that 45 square should be 2025. The given number here is 2401. That means very clearly 2401 is more than 2025. 2401 is greater than 2025. If this number is greater than 2025, it is obvious that square root of this number should be greater than 45. So answer here has to be 49. Why? Because the number given is more than 2025. That means it is more than 45 square. If this number is more than 45 square, its square root will be more than 45. So 41 here is less than 45. That is the reason it is ruled out. And we can now say that the correct answer is 49. So 49 is the square root for 2401. So these are the 3 steps that we need to follow to get the answer here. The first step is look at the unit space and decide what are the possible unit spaces. Second step is to leave the last 2 digits of the given number, and from the remaining part we need to find out a number which is less than the remaining part and a perfect square. And the third step here is to check a square of the number which is exactly between the 2 possibilities, which is 45 here. Let us take one more example. Square root of 12769. Now here, as per the first step, as the number is ending in 9, square root should end with 3 or 7. Second step is to leave the last 2 digits. Now what is less than 127 and a perfect square? Less than 127 is 121. 121 is 11 square. That means very clearly the next part should be 11 in the answer. So the answer here either is 113 or 117. Now the third step is to decide which of these two is correct. Now, exactly what comes between 113 and 117 is 115. What is 115 square? 11 into 12, 13225. And this number 12769 is less than 13225. If it is less than 13225, its square root should be less than 115. What is less than 115? 113. So 113 is the correct answer, and this gets cancelled. But let me tell you friends, finding out cube roots is easier when compared to finding out square roots. Why? Because in square roots we have 3 steps, but in case of cube roots we have only 2 steps. But before we understand how to find out cube roots in 2 steps, let me make it clear, this method is applicable only for perfect cubes. Like in case of square roots, we have understood that it can be applied only for perfect squares. Here as well, the method is applicable only if the given number is a perfect cube. And generally, in the simplifications part of bank exams, we get only perfect cubes. If the question on cube roots is asked in approximations, then the number may or may not be a perfect cube. But otherwise, it is a perfect cube. So assuming that the given number is a perfect cube, let us see how to get the answers for these questions in 2 seconds. The first step in finding out cube roots is similar to the first step in square roots. That is, we need to find out what is the units place of the given number. Now for that, we have to know the pattern of units place. So that is as given here. For example, when a number ends with 1, its cube root ends with 1. When a number ends with 2, cube root ends with 8. When a number ends with 3, the cube root of the number ends with 7. Likewise for 4, it is 4, 5, 5, 6 and 6. For 7, we get the answer ending with 3. When a number ends with 8, we get the cube root ending with 2. When a number ends with 9, the cube root ends with 9. So as you can see here, for most of them, the units place remains same. 1, 4, 5, 6 and 9. Only in case of 2 and 8, it is interchanged, and 3 and 7, it gets interchanged. So the pattern here is very simple. And this is the reason we have only 2 steps in case of cube roots. But because when we are finding out square roots, if a number ends with 1, its square root may end with 1 or 9. So that is the reason we have 2 possible answers. But when we are finding out cube roots, if a number is ending in 1, its cube root ends only with 1. So there is no second possibility. That is the reason the third step is not there in finding out cube roots. Now the given number is 551368. We are supposed to find out the cube root of 5,51,368. The first step is to check the unit space. Now the number here is ending in 8. Assuming that this is a perfect cube, if the number is ending in 8, its cube root should end with 2 from the given pattern. So very clearly the answer will be ending with 2. Now the second step here again is similar to the second step of square roots. In square roots, we leave the last 2 digits and check for the remaining part of the answer. Here we have to leave the last 3 digits. That means forget about the last 3 digits. From the remaining part of the answer, find out that number which is immediately less than 551 and a perfect cube. Now something which is immediately less than 551 and a perfect cube is 512. 512 is 8 cube. So the tens place has to be 8. So the answer for cube root of 551368 is 82. And as you can see here, there is no second possible answer. We directly get what is the correct answer. Let's take one more example, 50653. Here the number is ending in 3. When a number ends with 3, its cube root should end with 7. So that's the first step. Now leave the last 3 digits. What is less than 50 and a perfect cube? That is 27. 27 is 3 cube. If you go for 4 cube, it is 64, more than 50. We want lesser side. So immediately less than 50 and a perfect cube is 27. And 27 is 3 cube. So here the tens place has to be 3. So 37 is the answer for cube root of 50,653. So in simple 2 steps, we get the answer for the given cube roots.